Welcome back and thank you for staying with Checkpoint. Now, every year from November 25th to December 10th, the world observes the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, a campaign that aims to raise awareness and mobilize action to end all forms of violence against women and girls. In 2023, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics reported an increase in gender-based violence, with femicide rates rising by nearly 30%. Now, femicide cases have since increased. This alarming trend is not just a statistic, it represents the lives of countless women who face violence simply for being women. Now, following that alarming rise in femicide cases in the country, we want to have a brief discussion, which is quite timely considering we're about to finalize the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, bearing in mind just recently the country noted a hike in the number of femicide cases in the country. I'm joined by experts in studio. Allow me to introduce them. First of all, Jared Oduor is joining us in studio. He's a counseling psychologist at the Amani Counseling Center and Training Institute. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Karibu sana.
Pleasure.
Asante sana for your time. Equally joined by Magia Dhiambo. She is the gender and inclusion expert at Shofco. Shofco is a shining hope for communities, an NGO serving urban slum dwellers. Karibu sana, Magi.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Of course, this is a timely conversation, as I've mentioned, as we celebrate and mark those 16 days as fighting GBV in the country, regionally and across the globe. Jared, I'd like to begin with you, because various organizations, including the Federation of Women Lawyers, FIDA, have condemned what they term as an alarming rise in femicide cases in Kenya. So let's break it up from the top. What is your general understanding of what femicide entails for the benefit of our viewers back at home, and what factors do you think are contributing to the rise in femicide cases in the country?
Wow. Thank you very much. Once again, I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to the nation about this vice that really we all are looking to, that we will find a solution to. First of all, this is a very wide subject that we need to expound on, and we need to delve into it in depth in terms of getting to know what femicide is all about. Historically, femicide is started way back in 1801 there, even before that, where women were being butchered and killed. And you realize that it was not being brought to their attention why women were subject to the massive killings. I would quote somebody called John Corey, who came up with sensitized the whole thing and made the whole world to know something that was going on that needed to be focused on.
Okay.
Somehow in around 1848 there, again he raised and published the stories of women being killed, and he was just kind of alerting the whole world to come to the rescue of women, and actually he was mobilizing the world around this so that they would see what really makes women to be killed. And so this subject, femicide, has been a thorny issue, and it has even defeated so many people to explain what it is, because part of femicide is homicide. And by the way, I will say that most of the femicide are homicide. So drawing a line in between what a femicide is and homicide is was like is something.
Lines there.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So because most of the perpetrators were like, if you look at the statistics, and I know my colleague will talk about it, you will look at the issues of intimate partnership contributing so much to the homicide issues. But when the research was drawing the line to find where femicide belongs, it was realized that the male partners were more of killing the female partners. And so that is how it was like it was something that was being debated upon.
Okay.
Should we treat it as femicide or homicide?
Okay.
By the way, the name femicide had not come in. But various actors came in now that the issue was escalating, and there was the activists, feminist activists who came on board and really wanted to voice it out so that so many people could listen and see what actually happens around it. And there was a tribunal that was set around this to discuss about issues to do with the killings that are taking place, and majorly targets were women. And so girls, yeah. This tribunal happened in that was in the 1970s, and come 1976 here. The findings were that the motive against women was very wrong, and men just wanted to do away with women, which they couldn't understand why. But again, as we define femicide, what came out in this tribunal was that it was not just about men killing women. When we defined femicide, it was realized that even women were targeting women. But now they were using men as objects to execute what they wanted to do. And so hiding behind the peripheries are the men who are leading in as perpetrators. But again, we will look at it and you'll find that even women were orchestrating this, well. And you'll find that they were using men to kill other women, but also there are women who kill women. But because the issue of men has dominated the whole thing, then it's men who are talked about so much. And I'm not defending men on this, but I'm just putting things into perspective so that we understand the context of femicide. So even women also do the same, and with various reasons, which I know we will discuss later.
We'll definitely come to it. Let's bring in Maggie into the conversation, because he's broken down the statistics over the years, and it's quite unfortunate that we're sitting here talking about a scourge that is still riddling the country, even in the 21st century. But this goes without saying that there have been efforts, government, non-governmental organizations, to completely eradicate this vice. Come in on that particular issue, because SHOFCO has been active on the ground. I understand you've organized GBV sensitization and awareness activities in at least 10 counties across Kenya. Talk to us about this awareness activities, how successful they have been, if so. And equally, I'd like to know what forms of femicide are prevalent in the country, and also tell us what these forms are. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Femicide, as my colleague has said here, is actually just killing women because of their gender. And femicide can also be described as a harmful practice that somebody imposes on a woman, just to ensure that a woman is maybe dead, or a woman is discriminated or looked down upon. So when you talk about femicide, femicide is very relative. It's not just maybe as the community perceives it as men killing women. It's also the harmful practices that also come along. Like we talk about FGM. When FGM is done and maybe women die, that is also femicide. We have medical neglect in hospitals when doctors, in issues of maternal deaths, when there's medical neglect when a doctor is handling women in delivery, and maybe a woman dies because of any kind of neglect, that is also femicide. So femicide is very relative. It's not about just male killing, male persons killing women, as my colleagues has said. It's also about any harmful practice that comes along to bring about the death of a woman in any way. We also have things like honor killings that happen, and that is also femicide, in its own way. So there are so many ways that femicide is characterized. Because we look at the gender inequalities, we look at the gender expectations in the community, we look at the way the community perceives women in the community. And if you look at the kind of femicide cases that are really high statistics has it that in every 10 minutes a woman is killed. And why is that so? It's because of a lot of gender inequality, and also that those gender expectations that are very high, that a man will want to see that because they dominate in the community, they'll want to see that they're the ones who are they're the voices, they're the ones who should take charge in everything. And if a woman takes charge in anything, and if a woman controls or takes charge in anything, that brings about the femicide issues and also their deaths and all that. Okay. So there's so many types of femicides that comes in. I've talked about the botched abortions. I've talked about the honor killings. I've talked about FGM and all that. And also there's the aspect of also culture that brings in femicide. When you look at the cultures that we have in our society, there's so many cultures that are really against women, and are really, they really lead women into such femicides in the community. Yeah, okay. So as SHOFCO, we term femicide as a gender-based violence. And when we talk about gender-based violence, we have strategies in which we can always ensure that we are curbing and we are reducing this kind of violations, because femicide is also just a kind of GBV. And I'll talk about the prevention strategy, whereby we are having awareness creation in the community. People just to understand what is the role of a man in the community, what is the role of a woman, what should a man do, what are the limits? In terms of law and in terms of the policies, if we look at the policies in Kenya, okay, we find that the policies does not favor femicide. We don't have a stand-alone policy for femicide, and by that we need to look at people coming in and ensuring that are we having a standalone policy like the law that stands in and ensures that we are curbing these issues of femicide? Indeed. Yeah. Okay, well noted. Thank you for breaking down and equally how those awareness activities are important across the country. Coming to you, Jared, how do we involve men in the eradication of femicide cases? Because if we're to change that narrative, those who are often referred to as perpetrators, and I know you threw a spanner in the works saying, you know, at times women are also involved in the planning or when it comes to femicide cases, but how do we involve men so that we change the narrative that they're not part of the problem, but they're part of the solution, that they're no longer perpetrators, but they're the ones defending women and girls in society? Talk to us about it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it is high time that we incorporate men in this journey of life. Many times, way back, we used to say empowering a girl child, but we used also to leave the other side. I think these two sides must be very compatible and must move hand in hand. This is one thing that we need to do. How do we look at men? At some point, we neglected men so much, and we really gave so much power to the lady. And from psychological perspective, men are definitely born to be jealous. And sometimes when a lady is given an upper hand, look at areas of education or any other thing, okay, a man will definitely fight back by the strength that they have. And so looking at, even in terms of what Maggie has mentioned partly, about I call it the patriarchal society, where men have been given dominance over issues and over things. When a woman or a lady, the female comes up even to take over in one way or the other, they will react to that. Okay. And this one makes them a little, not that because they want, but they have been sent to be vulnerable, and their ego has been punctured. So they want to speak a language home. The only language that patriarchal society has taught men is to use the muscles to punch the woman so that the woman can hear. We need to reverse this. Yes. And we need to have a conversation around this.
So is the silver bullet having a conversation, or what needs to do so we change the narrative so that men are enablers of women and not,
I think what should happen is we should have male engagement and bring men on board, and make men protectors of issues of violence and not just perpetrators. We should also listen to their voices in terms of like these cases of femicide when they're coming in. Mostly in Kenya, we find that it's the male person who is killing the female, despite all those other violence that come in. So we need to have a conversation with the male person just to understand, why is this happening? Is it mental health issues? Is it the inequalities? Is it the gender expectation that is reflected? The conversation has to come from the male person, because they're the ones who are perpetrating this, and we can always get solutions and answers from having conversations with them, and also engaging them to be protectors and also to be supporters and engaging in issues of breaking the vices of dignity.
Are these conversations ongoing as we speak here? Because this is part of, how do we call it, public participation. We're informing the audience, but at the locality, qua ground, as they say, are these conversations ongoing? Well, what fruits have we seen from such initiatives?
Yeah, the conversations are going. So when you talk about femicide, there are also other characteristics and also other factors that are bringing in femicide.
Okay.
Like you talked about the gender expectations, all those other aspects that brings in about the issues of the femicide. So for us to say that we want to engage fully and also in bringing men on board, what policy stands in to ensure that we should enact harsh policies to ensure that issues of femicide are curbed so very well. And also, do we have programs and do we have systems, or do we have maybe organizations that are coming in to ensure that there's a lot of awareness creations in terms of what are the acts, what are the effects of femicide and all that. So our conversation needs to cut across the community.
Okay.
The conversation needs also to cut across maybe stakeholders and partners who handle issues of supporting violence in terms of prevention, mitigations, measures, and also in terms of response of this kind of cases.
Jared, as you come in, let's talk solution. And most so commonly, we usually hear the fact that Kenya has good laws in place. The problem is implementation. Is this the case when it comes to dealing with femicide cases in the country, that you hold a regard that there are good legislative pieces that have been passed that fight this scourge in terms of the law, or it simply boils down to lack of goodwill, lack of political goodwill, which in some instances is detrimental to such a fight against the vice in the country? Talk to us.
Well, I would say yes and no. In this sense that laws are very good. But you see, laws are just put in place to govern people so that they don't overstep their mandate or their boundaries. But I strongly feel that even if we set very good laws, they will not even, the laws cannot govern the emotions of human beings, the psychological points of human beings.
I get you. Yeah.
That's why we are coming back to the conversation. How many, Kenya has good laws, if you can, if you allow me to say so.
Yes.
But how many people are there in prison doing acts that are lawless acts, and they find themselves in prison? So I agree that laws are good, and laws are made by men. But
so a law is not enough of a deterring factor?
It is not. I actually bring you back to this conversation that we need to talk. If I have an issue and I have a problem, you need to hear me, because people decide to violate that law because what really is languishing within them is not fulfilled.
All right.
And so I would bring back, if you'd ask me about men, I would bring back this weight back even to our families. I think it will not start with us out there. It will start with us inside here. And by saying so, I mean at our family level.
Okay.
This is if I am a father, this is my boy. This is my girl. And you see that? Can we resonate at that point whereby we start nurturing our children in that manner? Well, and if you look at the generations that are coming, and even the generation today, you see how we pass the batons to them. And that is what they run with.
All right.
If they see me in the house, a violent man in the house, a violent father in the house, beating my children, see me beating their mother, you won't say anything out there and here, because they know that this is the way to handle women.
I get you.
You see that?
Umleavyo ndivyo kuavyo.
That's right.
Exactly. Maggie, as you come in, I'm looking at the solutions, the steps taken, because a multi-pronged approach is quite necessary to eradicate this vice. Government recently formed a special parliamentary committee to tackle rising violence against women. There are calls for the state to form a special police unit to investigate rising femicide cases. So all things said and done, does this equate to all back and no bite? What really is needed to reduce the frequency of femicide cases in the country, which we've recorded an upsurge, especially in the year 2024?
Yeah, thank you. The major issue that brings about femicide is the issue of gender inequality.
Yeah.
If at all we can have programs and projects and even policies that curb these, in the sense that we have spaces, maybe safe spaces for women where they can voice out their voices. We have a support from different institutions, like religious institutions, other partners coming up and voicing out and creating awareness, creation on issues of femicide. Understanding consent and also practicing consent, because most of the times we find that issues of femicide, when they come along, it's the issue of somebody not understanding what consent is and also just prevailing and doing whatever they want to do. So can we understand consent and can we practice consent? Another thing, we need to engage in partnership, working together as partners, because different partners have different strengths in issues of fighting gender-based violence. So when you come about with different strengths and ensure that there's no impunity, because impunity is something that has made issues of violence really prevail. You'll find that we're having systemic challenges, like we have issues at the police station levels, we have issues in court, cases staying in court like forever. You also have issues at medical levels. These things are things that needs to be addressed. Impunity is something that needs to be addressed, because at the end of the day, if you're saying that you want to reduce violation, the systems needs to do their work excellently well, and also everybody needs to understand their roles in terms of fighting and ending issues of GBV. Do the religious leaders, do the community, do the systems understand their roles in issues of ensuring that we're curbing femicide, which is like a national, which is something that should be declared as a national crisis, because it's something that has really gone so much and so high. So can we have programs that bring in and fights and reduces gender inequality in terms of education, in terms of access to reproductive health issues, like making even abortion safe and also legal? Because we find that femicide is also, many women die because of those botched abortions, many women die because of neglect in hospitals. Can we have systems that are really up to date and are really ensuring that the strategies laid upon are things that are really followed up to ensure that we're curbing issues of GBV and also issues of femicide, which is very, very high in the country.
All right, we're pressed for time. So, Jared, as you're coming in a minute or so, speak to the realities that you've seen as a counseling psychologist and perhaps a message to the public back at home in terms of joining efforts to fight this vice in the country, because you're only as strong as your weakest link. And we've talked about various weak links in this fight against the scourge that is femicide, briefly in a minute or so.
Yeah, we need to come on board as a society. The society is ailing. Mine is to echo so loudly about mental health issues. All these things, even if you compress them, you realize that the bigger package of it and percentage has got some elements of mental health issues. And we need to bring these people on board. We need to hear them out, as we say. Hear our boys and hear our girls.
All right.
If we end up maybe like pointing fingers at the boys alone, we will complicate the equation. Let's bring them on board. Let's hear them out. I would also want to use this particular opportunity, maybe even to appeal to the government.
Briefly, yes.
Yes, and just to enhance mental health issues within the country. At least if that one can be done, to connect with different sectors on mental health, I think we'll nip the situation in the bud.
That's
Thank you.
Again, 30 seconds or so, briefly.
Yeah, femicide is something that is really very high. Like I'd said, you find that in 10 minutes, a woman dies. So what can...
That's globally, though.
That is globally. So how can we come together, maybe as stakeholders, as the government, as different parties, just to ensure that we are looking at the root causes and what is really bringing about the issues of femicide. So once we start addressing the root causes, the problems that we are having in terms of maybe, is it mental illnesses, like he's talked about, is it gender inequality, is it gender expectations, all that. We need to look at what are the root causes that are bringing about femicide, and we start addressing that, and also come up with harsh policies that will curb this, and also come up with programs and also zero tolerance policies that will also ensure that we are reducing issues of femicide, and everybody doing their role, and CSOs, the government and all stakeholders coming together, bringing forth their strengths and ensuring that we are reducing these issues of femicide. Because at the end of the day, if we say that we only wait for maybe the 16 days of activism, which is only 10 days, to ensure that we are emphasizing on all these, I'd urge us to look at activism as 365 days, just do it throughout the year, because GBV is something that is going on 24/7, is something that is continuous. So why not just ensure that we are putting these strategies, we're looking at what worked, what never worked, and deploying what can work to ensure that we are reducing violence in the community, and also in Kenya, and also in the world as large.
Okay, Asanteni sana, we need to treat the disease, not the symptoms. That's one of the takeaways, and equally, it's not just about 16 days of activism against GBV, 365 days of activism against gender-based violence. And asanteni sana for your time and your contributions. Jared Odror is a counseling psychologist and at the Amani Counseling Center and Training Institute, equally joined by Maggie Adhiambo. She's the gender and inclusion expert at SHOFCO, that's Shining Hope for Communities. That's how we take a short break right here on Checkpoint. Coming up, the very latest in the world of sports, including